It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from North Brewing Company and it's called As One. So it's Action Against Hunger, collaborating with Olaya Hercules and Northern Monk. And this is a plum and buckwheat Baltic porter coming in at 5% ABV. North Brewing Company, yeah, I think they produce some really good beers. I know. I've had one or two beers in 2022, early 2022, which I wasn't a massive fan of. Some of you have watched the videos, some of you have kind of commented on those videos, but then equally, I've drunk North Brewing Company beers based in Leeds, and I've loved their beer. So, yeah, I don't think as a beer reviewer you can like absolutely everything. And I think the most important thing, standing here in front of the camera, is that you're just open and honest. Whether you like something or you don't like something, you're always going to split opinion. You're never going to kind of like get 100% of the people on board. You're always going to have some people saying, well, I like that. There's people drink different batches of the beer. If it's a beer in the supermarket, North might have kind of adjusted the recipe. They might have made it better, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of kind of moving things in the beer world, especially when it comes to a beer. Think of Brewdog Punk IPA. If anybody's old enough to remember Brewdog Punk IPA when it first came out, or if they tried it when it first came out, it's a completely different beer than the one that's out today. So beer, that's what I'm trying to say. Beers change. Beer that sits on the supermarket shelf never stays the same over a 10-year span. Right. Where did that come from? Let's get this beer out into a glass, see what we get. A little bit of smoke on the can opening. I'm going to say, for a Baltic porter, I'm going to say 5% ABV seems a little light. And I'm pretty sure North Brewing Company won't mind my honesty here. They won't mind it at all. Because again, I get approached at beer festivals when I go, and I get approached by brewers who say, do you know what, that beer you reviewed of mine a few months back, I totally agree with you. And then I guess some brewers come up to me, and again, that difference of opinion, and go, I thought you were quite harsh with my beer. It's a case of just being honest with yourself. So in my honest opinion here, 5% for a Baltic porter seems a little light. It seems, well, I'll tell you the history of Baltic porter in a moment, but it's a bit like Imperial Stout and it's a bit like IPA. If you know the IPA story, needed to be brewed stronger. It's a very similar story with the Baltic porter. So we've got a one finger tan coloured head. It's a jet black beer in the glass. A little bit of carbonation going on. It looks very nice. Let's get the aroma. Oh, it smells very nice too. It smells really good actually. Certain dryness coming through. Biscuity breadiness. Loads of roasted malt. So that translates the kind of chocolate, coffee, caramel flavours coming through in the beer. Oh, the aroma is really good. Really, really good. I like that. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. That's quite nice, that. Actually, it's very nice. So, instead of getting the roasted malt first, what I'm getting to begin with is the plum. Definitely getting that plum first. a light bulb moment's just gone off in my mind. I tell you what this reminds me of. Titanic's Plum Porter. What a beer that is. Titanic's Plum Porter. Tremendous stuff. This is... Now, if you think of North Brewing Company, if you think that what they're capable of in terms of brewing, then for me, this is like a really good top quality plum porter. I've had some plum porters that have been brewed for Aldi, and it's been okay. It's been a bit wishy-washy, but just tasting this beer, this is exactly what a plum porter should be tasting like. So you're definitely getting that wonderful fruit plum beginning to the beer. It's like a dark fruit. You might be mistaken, if you didn't read the back of the can, you might be mistaken for thinking maybe raisin. I say plum, fig and prune, those kind of dark fruit flavours. That sometimes naturally comes through as well. When you put hops in a beer, or lots of hops with a beer with roasted malt, you get that kind of plum, fig and prune flavour coming through. But it's lovely and balanced with that. So it starts off with that plum and fig and prune flavour. But then on the back end, right now, so you're getting this rich creaminess from the mouthfeel, little tickle of carbonation pushing the beer on the inside of the mouth. And then on the back end, you're getting this lovely roasted malt. So if you think of the roasted malt in the beer, it's a bit like roasting a coffee bean. So the brewers or the maltsters roast malt, and instead of having like light malt flavours in your beer, you're getting roasty, toasty, toasted flavours coming through. So a bit of bitter dark chocolate, coffee, caramel flavours coming through. Wonderful. It's a really well brewed beer. But I think, first of all, I'm going to talk to you about Baltic Porter. So the situation with Baltic Porter is that over the Baltic Sea in the winter, big trade route with the boats, ships, trading with all of the Baltic countries, Russia and Poland and all these wonderful countries up here. But when they were brewing the beer, when they were taking the beer over to Russia and Poland and in the winter time, up over the Baltics, the beer was freezing. The beer wasn't keeping in the winter, in those winter winds and rain and minus temperatures. The beer was freezing. So what they had to do, because porter was a big beer, porter was like, if you think of London porters, that beer style was huge, and we exported it all over the world. So what we had to do, we had to brew it for the Baltic nations. We had to brew it stronger, and then the name came naturally, Baltic Porter. So it was a stronger version of a porter. So if you brewed this beer at 5% ABV back in the day, global warming now has put paid to all of that kind of freezing. I suppose it does freeze, but it's not nowhere near as cold as it used to get. But if they tried to take this 5% Baltic Porter over the Baltics in the winter now, it would freeze and it wouldn't make it. And it would just taste a bit... it would just separate. The water would separate, the water and the beer would separate from the alcohol. It would just be a right mess. So it wouldn't work in its current state. This 5% Baltic Porter wouldn't make it over the Baltics. If you think back in the day, wooden casks and all that kind of stuff. So really, calling it a Baltic Porter, it's a big stretch, isn't it? It's a big stretch, and I think it should just have been called a porter. For argument's sake, it should have just been called a porter. and I wouldn't be even having this conversation with you. But a real Baltic porter is about 8, 9, 10% ABV. I've had Baltic porters at 12% ABV before now. But apart from that, the beer is great. The beer is great. It really is. Oh, it's another Ukrainian themed beer. As the conflict continues in Ukraine, we have brought together a small team to celebrate the country's culinary culture and raise funds to support those impacted by the war. Oh, there we go. Well, it's Ukrainian colours, look, as well. Okay, so rating for this beer then. If it was just called a porter, I think I'd be giving it a 9 out of 10. The fact that they called it a Baltic porter, I'm going to have to take a mark away. I'm going to say 8 out of 10 for this beer. 8 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom! Cheers!